Absolute value inequalities, everyone's favorite. Alright, here we have the absolute value of 6 minus x is less than 10. What we want to remember, when you have an absolute value inequality, you have to basically turn that into a compound inequality. In compound inequality, you have to decide, is it an and or is it an or compound inequality? What we can keep in mind is that when we see absolute value bars, we want to remember that this is talking about the distance. It's kind of sloppy, but the distance between, these two things has to be less than a 10. And so kind of the way we looked at this in class was, let's say this is where we're at. You can go a distance of 10 this way or 10 this way. Well, or maybe 5 and 5. Either way, here's the distance. We want this distance from here to here to be less than 10. So does that mean, are we moving in or are we moving out to get smaller distances? So we will be moving in, which means this is going to start to look like an and compound inequality. So any less than inequalities we will rewrite as an and compound inequality. So the way that we do this is first step, just take the absolute value bars right off and write what you see. You have a 6 minus x is less than 10. That is part of it. You've got your middle section for the and. You've got the right section. Now to get the left section, we just have to bring down or carry over another less than to match that. And then if you've got a positive 10 on the right, you're going to have a negative 10 on the left. And now we have our compound inequality, and we can go ahead and solve for x. Go to the center in here. We're going to undo everything we see in here. Start by subtracting a 6. We have negative 16 is less than a negative x is less than 4. And that negative x, go ahead and think of that as a negative 1 times x. We will undo that by dividing all three sections by a negative 1. Now we're dividing an entire inequality by a negative value, which is going to flip all of your signs. So this becomes a positive 16 is greater than x, which is greater than negative 4. So this looks a little bit weird. You can flip this entire expression and put the negative 4 first, but then your signs are going to flip as less than x, which is less than 16. And then for us to graph this, here's our number line. We have negative 4, 16. Open circles on both those values. So open circle, and because it's an and inequality, we are shading in. Alright, so that was a little bit tricky with that negative 1 with the x, but that's okay. If we look at our next example, again we have an absolute value inequality, which means we have to turn it into a compound inequality. And the thing that's going to tell us how to do that is the inequality. A greater than. Now we're saying we want the distance from, let's say, here and here to be greater than 7. Well, to get that distance greater, we're going to have to work our way out this way and out this way. And that ends up being an or inequality. So every greater than is we're going to rewrite as an or compound inequality. First one, easy. Again, just take the bars right off and write it as you see it. So 5x plus 3 is greater than 7. Bring down your or. There we go, there's more space. Or, so this part, 5x plus 3 is greater than 7. That's going to get you to shade to the right. But remember, we have to shade to the left also. So we're going to continue or keep that 5x plus 3. And the thing that's going to make us shade to the left, we don't want a greater than inequality. We want to switch that to a less than inequality. And then if this is a positive 7, this becomes a negative 7 right there. Now it's a compound inequality. You've got your two parts there, and we're just going to take this and solve for x. Undo any addition or subtraction first. So 5x is greater than 4. Divide by 5, divide by 5. X is greater than 4/5. Don't be nervous that it's a fraction. Or, same math here. well, not 110. We divide by 5, and we get x is less than a negative 2. So on our number line, we've got a negative 2, negative 1, 0. Now that 4/5, that is between 0 and 1. It's going to be closer to 1 than it is to 0. And greater than 4/5, that's going to be an open circle. Open circle on negative 2. Greater than the 4/5 had a shade out. Less than the negative 2 has a shade to the left, which we knew would happen because we decided in the beginning that it should be an OR compound inequality. So the thing to remember about your absolute value inequalities, I think, is this right here, where we say that it gets rewritten as a compound inequality. And then you have to decide, should it be and or should it be or? And if you can get through that step, then it's not too bad solving these.